since 4:45.
I'd like to call this November 20th, 2025 Board of Education regular meeting to order. George, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mr. Griffin?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Ms. Stallcheck?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum.
Here. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next on the agenda is strategic priorities. Our district has developed and is currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. There are 4 strategic priorities to the plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan. Next, we have an agenda change. We have an addition of action item under Section G, Treasurer's Report, Item 2, New Fund for Fiscal Year 26. Next, I'll turn it over to Dr. Ryba for recognitions.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. It's an exciting evening to celebrate some of our outstanding fall athletes, so I'm going to turn it over to Jason Kepler, our athletic director, to get us started.
Evening, everyone. I always say this when we're up here, but I at least want to show some gratitude to everyone. I always say one of my most favorite parts of the job is recognizing our kids when they do some really great things, and our kids these days are doing lots and lots of really great things. So we're here quite a bit. Before I begin, and we bring the kids up here today, I at least want to shout out our coaching staff for all the things that they do. I'm going to start with Coach Koval and Coach Spilker with cross country. With coaching multiple sports, they're here quite a bit anymore, and I always worry about running out of great things to say about them, but when I sit down and think about it, I have a list a mile long, and I usually have to edit it back so we're not here all night. Coach Koval, the thing I appreciate most about you this year and the rest of the coaching staff is your sacrifice that you make. Coach Spilker, there you are. The sacrifice you make for the kids of our community and the cross-country team. We all know sports requires a lot of sacrifice for families and kids, and that's no different for our coaching staff. To give you a glimpse in what their sacrifice looks like away from their personal schedules and their family, I'm going to start back in the summer and give you a glimpse into that schedule. So multiple times a week for hours at a time, they're training all over Strongsville and the greater Cleveland area to make sure the kids are ready for the season. Once we get into the season, they're running every single day right after school. And recently they've really developed a robust weightlifting program, which I would say most cross-country teams in Northeast Ohio probably don't have. And then on top of that, their competition season is about 12 weeks long. This year, 11 of the 12 weeks, they gave up significant parts of their weekend where they traveled to Cincinnati, Columbus, Youngstown a couple times, Mentor a couple times, and multiple places in between. Many of those weekends were the entire weekend. Some of them were 8+ hours just on a Saturday. Long story short, the sacrifice that you guys make for these kids is pretty incredible. So I'd like to thank you guys very much for that. And coaches, would you mind coming up to the podium, please?
All right, I get to go first this time. All right. I'm just going to call Luke up here. Come on up, Luke. You can stand with me. All right, Luke Weiland. He is our state qualifier, and as of Monday night, he also is our most valuable runner. Again, I'd also like to show some appreciation, so thanks for having us in today. I have the privilege of recognizing Luke for qualifying to the OHSA state championship, but also, like I said, earned our most valuable runner award. And Luke just didn't run this season. He really did evolve from the end of the track season all summer long, and then by the start of the cross-country season, there was some big changes, and he was pretty determined. When he towed the line at Glen Oak, our first invitational back in August, he posted a 17:22, solid, respectable, but he wasn't satisfied with respectable. He continued to grind and put in the work. After week and race after race, he shaved a little bit of time off each week. And by the time we reached Strongsville, which is our invitational, which some of you I know I saw there, it's one of the largest events that we hold at our campus. And we have a really fast course. Lots of teams like to come to it because of our fast course. He ultimately ran his fastest time of the season, a 16:18. That's not luck, that's hard work, that's sacrifice, and that's an athlete who refuses to settle. His season was defined by consistency under pressure. He earned top 20 finish against 330 runners at Boardman, placed third at Gilmore, secured fifth at the GCC Championship, finished 16th at regionals, and that's where he punched his ticket to states. And when the stakes were the highest at the OHSA State Championship against the best 180 runners in Division I, Luke delivered and ran a 6:19 on a course significantly tougher than our home course in Strongsville. But beyond that, and beyond all the times and the placements and everything else, what makes Luke really special to our program is his leadership, his positivity, and his relentless drive to make everyone around him a lot better, which I can't tell you how much that is valuable as a coach, because I know I have him to take care of some things, and he always did that. So congratulations on a great season. And I have your certificate. Congratulations. Yeah, stay here.
All right, Lindsay and Hannah, if you guys want to come up. We all match. Not planned. So thank you guys for having us here tonight. I am so excited to talk about Hannah and Lindsay, but I'm going to start with Lindsay. So Lindsay was one of our consistent top 3 runners this season, and her biggest challenge came in the postseason at regionals in Boardman. And if you ask Lindsay and Lindsay's family, they'll probably tell you this is her least favorite course of the season, and we run it once in the beginning and then once for regionals later in the season. And at regionals, Lindsay ran a great race, but the results for who made state weren't available right away. There's a little bit of a delay. So after the race, I was standing at the results table with Lindsay's mom, and then Lindsay headed back to the tent with her teammates. And literally the second the results came out, Lindsay's mom and I were like scrolling and counting, because it's the top 25 not part of a team. So they don't make it easy for you to see if you get to go. So we finally saw that Lindsay qualified, and she was actually the last person to qualify. So that was exciting. And I literally sprinted to the tent to tell Lindsay, and she couldn't believe it. The whole team was so excited, screaming, hugging her, and it's just one of those rare moments that I was so honored to witness and get to tell you, I will never forget that. But that obviously wasn't the end. Lindsay got to run at the state meet, and Lindsay hadn't PR'd in 2 years, but in secretness, us and the coaches and Coach Aubrey were like, she can PR at this one. We're not going to say it, but I know you were thinking it, and I was obviously thinking it. So when we saw Lindsay in her final stretch at the state meet, we knew she was going to PR. And, again, moments like that are just so rare and unforgettable, and it reminds us why we coach and why we work through the hard parts of the season to witness moments like that. But we're just so proud of you, Lindsay, and we're looking forward to seeing you lead the team next year as one of our returning seniors. Congrats. And then this is Hannah Jika. She was here last year too, and the year before. But Hannah has had an amazing cross-country career the last 3 years. She is a soccer player, now cross-country runner, so came to our program as a sophomore, and the last 2 years she's been our MVP. This year she earned 6 first-place finishes, broke her own school record from last year, was our conference and regional champ, and placed 4th at the state meet, which is the highest finish in school history. Hannah isn't just an incredible athlete. She's a great teammate. She's so smart. I don't know how she takes all of the classes she takes and competes at this elite level. But she always is looking for ways to get better. She asks us for feedback and pushes herself and the team to improve, which is a rare trait to have at such a young age. But next year, Hannah will be running at Villanova, and I know she'll continue to represent Strongsville with the same hard work and heart that she's done here for the last 3 years. On my drive over here, I thought of one last thing I wanted to share, and I don't think I told you this, but when Coach Koval and I went to the middle school banquet, and we were pumping up the cross-country program to try to recruit everyone, some of the girls were like, "You're Hannah Jika's coach," and I was like, that's pretty cool that like 7th and 8th graders in the district like look up to you, and you deserve all the recognition in the world, so congratulations. Right.
We're so proud of you. Congrats. We're so proud of you. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
Coach, we're proud of you. Coach, we're proud of you. Thank you.
You want to gather over on the wall there so Mr. Kepler could get a picture of the group and coaches as well.
We need to put one of those banners. We need to put up one of those banners there. We take so many pictures there. Like a banner that's in the air.
Okay, on to our ladies tennis team and some of the amazing athletes that we have down there. Before we bring Mallory up, I'd like to talk about Coach Black and the work that he's done for, I don't know the exact number of years, but 10 plus years as a tennis coach in Strongsville. After the tennis club closed in Strongsville many, many years ago, there was not much of a youth program in Strongsville, and we all know how vital a youth program is to any of our high school teams. And recognizing that, when Sean got involved with coaching, he went to the city many years ago and wanted to help start developing a youth program. So he helped them start and develop a summer tennis program for kids that's 8 weeks long, where I don't know anymore, but there's always at least 150 or so kids in that program. And he's been doing that for a long time, developing not only these kids' skill, but their love for tennis. And then after the board was gracious enough to approve intramurals at the middle school, Sean helped with that and started intramural tennis down there, where the very first time we offered it, we had 50 to 60 middle schoolers playing tennis down there. So Coach Black, over the long term, has developed a very comprehensive tennis program. And to say that I'm not surprised that the team this year, for the first time in 35 years, won the conference, and for the first time in 34 years had somebody qualify for states. To say that I'm not surprised by that is a huge understatement. So, Coach Black, would you mind coming up?
All right. So this is Mallory. She is a sophomore that just completed her sophomore season for us. Last year, she was our first singles player as a freshman, where she was a team MVP, all conference, took second place at the GCCs, and placed in the top 8, but was just shy of by 1 match of making the state tournament last year. So she's a great hard worker. She puts in effort year round. During the season, puts in extra time, taking private lessons, tournaments, across Ohio and outside Ohio and other states. So she put the hard work in, and this year she finished her season with a 31-6 record. As Mr. Kepler mentioned, she was the first singles player, but part of the team that won the first conference championship since 1990. And as part of that, she was individually the first singles champion, and for the first time, I think, before that. I don't even know when the last time was. Our records don't go back that far. So she was the GCC Player of the Year for her first place finish there, and first state qualifier since 1991. She was recognized by Cleveland.com as All Northeast Ohio second team. Of the 6 losses that she had this year, all of them came to state qualifiers. 3 of them were in the postseason, and 3 during the regular season. So a couple other accomplishments that she had just during her dual match highlights, some district and state qualifiers that she defeated were Worcester, Jackson twice, Shaker Heights twice, both state qualifiers, Toledo Notre Dame, Avon twice, and Aurora. She took second place at sectionals with a 4-1 record at the sectional tournament. At districts, she went 3-1 to earn herself to be the 5 seed from Northeast Ohio. And additionally, in addition to winning the GCC tournament, she also won the Highland tournament, where she defeated a state qualifier from Highland. And she teamed up with her teammate Charlotte, who plays second singles for us, and won the Medina doubles tournament, defeating a state qualifying doubles team. So in addition to doing it at singles, she can do it at doubles as well. So in the championship of there. So ended her season down at Cincinnati, where she got to play at the home of the Cincinnati Open, which is probably the 3rd or 4th largest professional tennis tournament in the United States. So she had a great experience getting to play on the same courts as the professionals do in August. And look forward to hopefully a couple more years as she returns for her junior and senior year. So, congrats, Mallory.
All right. Well, congratulations again, Luke, Lindsay, Hannah, and Mallory. Those were some impressive stats and running times. Again, it's amazing what our athletes can do. And coaches, we appreciate all your time and dedication that you put into the sports and to the kids. So thank you. Now's a great time if anyone needs to exit, homework. Thanks for being here. All I have to say is homework.
They're really preparing for that short week next week and doing that homework.
All right, next on the agenda is public comment. I don't have any slips. No public comment tonight? Okay. Next, we have approval of minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the November 6, 2025 work session meeting. All audio recordings will be a permanent part of the minutes and are available upon request through the treasurer's office. Video recordings shall be maintained based on the availability of the selected digital online platform. All right. Next, we have Board of Education Other. First item is a 4% consent resolution, special needs district. Be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Boards of Education approves a resolution determining that the school district is a special needs district and authorizing the preparation and filing of materials in connection with applications for designation of the school district as a special needs district pursuant to Section 113.06E of the revised code, and 2, consents pursuant to Section 133.06C of the revised code. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, second by Michelle. George, do you mind explaining what we're voting on?
Yeah, so this is, this is the first step of moving forward with a bond issue on the ballot. If you remember last meeting when we were talking about timelines, so there's 3 resolutions in the past. We mentioned 2 because usually this one is kind of packaged together with the one that we asked for the certification, but due to our own timeline, we broke it out where if we're going to exceed 4% of our assessed valuation and debt issuance and bond issuance, and it also includes any outstanding bonds, so we have the middle school debt that's still outstanding, so that's part of this calculation. We have to request the tax commissioner that we're going to exceed the 4% assessed valuation and request of the tax commissioner that we're going to be a special needs district, that we're going to be exceeded. So it's submitting application to the tax commissioner, which is due by January 5th. So it's to get that ball rolling on that aspect. It doesn't commit us to anything. It's just getting the process going.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions? Any questions for George?
And then I will add, just speaking of timeline, by the January, if we haven't picked our January meeting dates, but if we keep to the current cadence with the second and fourth meeting, at the January 8th meeting, we'll need to have a firm number for if we want to move forward with the bond issue, to pass that first resolution and get the certification from the county, and then the January 22nd meeting, if that's the meeting, to adopt we'll submit the certification after we pass the resolution on January 8th to the county. They'll certify the millage amount, and then at the following meeting, we'll accept that through board resolution, and that's what moves forward to file with the Board of Elections, which is due by January 27th.
Great. Thank you. Can you take the roll?
Yep. Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes. Motion carries. All right, next, a bond discussion. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ryba to get us started.
Thank you, Ms. Hausum. We thought it'd be a good idea to share an update with the board and our community as to the work that we've been doing, as George shared, to prepare for a bond decision coming here in January. So every other week, we meet with our pre-bond work architectural partner, GPD, and Mrs. Hausum, Ms. Bissell are part of those meetings. And so this is all work that we've been doing over the past month to prepare for those decisions in January, as I shared. So the first thing, if we go to the next slide, that we've been working on is determining the program of requirements. And what that means is when you determine that we need a building that will fit 708 students, that's what each of our 3 new elementary schools would fit, there's a calculation that comes up and says, here's how much square footage we need for 708 students, and it factors in everything beyond classrooms, right? Bathrooms, HVAC, tech, gyms, art rooms, et cetera. And so they say, hey, here's how much space that building has to have at a minimum, and here's how much that would cost, and that's been kind of the foundation of our budget thus far. And then you go through this lengthy process, which we've started months ago at the start of the school year, to take a look at and say, hey, what are those programmatic priorities for our district, for our community? What are those things that our community expects that we provide to our students because we value them? And how do we do that in a fiscally responsible manner? So the board has heard my analogy numerous times, but the analogy is that of a puzzle. Is that they give you the border to say, hey, here's how big the border of your building is. Now it's time for you to figure out how all of the pieces fit inside of that border, or if you need to extend beyond that border, which we're now on iteration 3, and we have been beyond that border all 3 times. And so at the last meeting, we asked our architectural partners of, why are we still over? Where do you see compared to other districts, why we are still over in terms of square footage based on what we've selected? And so some of the things that are on the board designate that. What they've shared is we are over in the space that we're allocating to art and music. Typically, in a building this size, art and music are only given one room each, and we have designated that we need 2 separate art rooms and 2 separate music rooms. Internally, we have finalized that decision that we are going to have 2 separate music and 2 separate art rooms. The reason being is that currently at our larger elementary schools of Kinsner and Maraski that are in that 500-ish, upper 500 range, we have 1 full-time art teacher and another half-time art teacher that provides art instruction. We don't want to open new buildings and say, we're going to have art in the classroom. We want to have designated spaces, so when you go from mid to upper 500 student classrooms to 700 students, we're going to need 2 full art dedicated spaces. Same concept for music, plus you have to add on, we have instrumental music starting in 5th grade of orchestra and band, which would allocate space for that. So we know going into it, again, what are our programmatic priorities? Art and music are an important part of what we provide for our students. We're going to go beyond the border a little bit of what they say for art and music. The next bullet point is small group rooms. And so when you take a look at small group rooms, we've had to identify, we have a small group room would likely be an 150 square foot room that is room for an adult and about 6 to 10 kids. And so when you take a look at Title I services, reading support services, English learner services, we have Family First Solutions and Kids Hope and Mental Health Navigator and different small group space for students and adults to work. Originally slated there, we had told our partner, we need 12 of those. And so we've spent time over the last few weeks to be able to reduce those down. And I think we've gotten them down to 9. That we said, hey, we think we are adequately staffed for 9. So those were one of the things where they said, hey, you're a little over on the small group rooms, and we were able to pare those back while still meeting the current and future needs. Special education space was an area as well where we were over space, and they used kind of percentages to share. So they said, on average, a building has 12% of its total space dedicated to special education, classrooms, and services. We are at 20%. And so they also qualified that we are seeing that number rise. Because of the needs of students, we are seeing that number rise. And so Andy spent a lot of time looking at projections to share, hey, based on the percentage of students in our district that are identified as a student with a disability, then breaking that down by students that have moderate intensive to mild moderate needs, how much space do we need? We had we had 8 total classrooms allocated to that at the beginning, and we've been able to reduce that down to 6. And we feel that those 6, in conjunction with other space in the building, will adequately provide space to provide those services for our students. Administrative space is something else that we've looked at. By administrative, that does not mean principal and assistant principal. That's anything that's going to be in the office suite. And so we've been able to take a look at that as well and determine what space that we needed. And then there's this concept of extended learning spaces. So extended learning spaces would share what space do we have for students to move outside of their classroom to move towards more of a flexible environment with different seating, different tables, different configurations for students to work on things going on in the classroom or extend their learning beyond that. And so that's a part where we're still, I would say, the things I've shared with you so far, we've narrowed it down to say this is what we think should be there. That extended learning space is an area where we're still discussing, and I'll be sharing with GPD that we would like them to give us some mock-ups of what this would look like to deter. We have to see it. It's so abstract right now that we need to see it to determine Do we feel we need this extended learning space for each of our 6th grade levels? Do we feel we only need it for a section of a building? And what is our vision for use, so we don't allocate hundreds of square feet to something that's not going to be impactful to student learning? The other thing that goes into this is the number of classrooms. So again, take 700 students that we're projected for, divide that by 6th grade levels. I don't know what that, it's 100 and something. And then you take, right? That's as far as I could get with that division problem in my head. So you got 100 and something. You divide that by 25, which is the average class size we're building these rooms for. And that says you're going to have 5 classrooms per grade level. So that's what we're building in each of these buildings, that 5 kindergarten classrooms, 5 first grade classrooms, so on and so forth, at that 25 students per class size. The other, so what we want to make sure is we're building these buildings for 700 students. 700 times 3 is 2,100 students. Kinsner is right fitted for 500 students. So when these buildings open, should the bond pass in May, we will have enough room for 2,600 students. The last enrollment study we did was, I think 3 or 4 years ago. It was right after COVID ended. So we are starting to engage in an enrollment study that will be done in the next 3 to 4 weeks to be able to say, in 2029, what do we project our enrollment to be? If we feel we're within that range of what we're building the buildings for, great. If we feel we're not, then we're going to have to make some space decisions there as well. And then as we take a look at other spaces, those are things like there's a lot of other things in there, like sensory rooms. How many sensory rooms do we need to have? For services like occupational and physical therapy that have a lot of equipment, what kind of space do we need for them, for those support professionals? As well as, one of the things that we're still on the fence with is, should each of these buildings have a stage? So the stage is 850 square feet as a ballpark. That's the size of a classroom. And what we're challenged in our discussions is saying, there are these things that are great ideas and nice to have, but what is the practical use of those, and where do we see that they fit in? So that's an example of the other space. Our next steps, we had a meeting today with our administrative team. Again, we've got clarity on some of the decisions that we've made. We will give that back to GPD and say, here's decisions that we're locking in. Here's things we need some, so like with the stage, there's a lot of ways that you could work that stage. So how could that look in flexible space? Like Andy shared today, his kids go to a school that was recently built where the stage is at one area, and then it goes into the lunchroom, which then there's a movable wall that goes into the gym. That creates one very large space, which is interesting. Is that correct, Andy? Yeah, so that's, interesting concepts that we want to take a look at as we narrow in. Ultimately, we'll come to the board and share, here's where we're at with the square footage. Here's what it impacts on the cost, and give you the time to make some decisions as to determine whether or not we need to fine tune that at all. So that is what we've been doing with the program of requirements. I'll pause there to see if there's any questions on that work.
Any questions?
All right, so with the next slide, as you know, part of this bond project would be the renovation of Kinsner Elementary School. We had a conversation with GPD last, now that we're starting to narrow in on the spaces of what would be in the new buildings. Right now, Kinsner is just slated for infrastructure upgrades, which means it's a lot of behind the walls, behind the ceiling kind of upgrades. So we've asked them to bring to us concepts that would create equity between the new buildings and Kinsner. And so that becomes challenging, right? If you take a look at Kinsner, it's a landlocked property. There's not a lot of space. Some of the open space, if you built additional rooms in there, it would block out natural light from some of those interior corridor rooms. But we'll leave that to the architectural experts. Just to put on the radar of the board, is at our next meeting with GPD, the hope is that they will say, here's some enhancements that go beyond just infrastructure upgrades and new paint and some minor renovations, to say, here's some new and exciting spaces we're putting into the new buildings that we think we could replicate in Kinsler. So that's the update on Kinsler. And then moving on to the final update, and this is the part where we are going, I want you to be thinking about that last question in yellow as we go throughout this. Are there any SAO and preschool considerations presented that you don't support, or it should say, or need further you do not support any further exploration. So that's kind of what we want you to think about. The original concept for Muraski was that it would be a combination of having the preschool all in one place, as well as the administrative office building. As we've gone through and done work with GPD, what we have discovered, we've asked them now, just design what it would be if it was preschool only. If we said the administrative office isn't going to move there, design Muraski just to be the preschool. And we've gotten that with the collaboration of Sierra, our preschool principal. We've gotten that to, we've said that design is good. It fits all of our needs that we have at the preschool. And GPD came back and said, based on our projections of that combined SAO and preschool, if you just do the preschool, it'll reduce the price tag by $6 million. So that spurred a thought for our team to say, combining the preschool and administrative offices at Muraski is not really saving us much money. It's the same amount of money just put on one location. And is there a benefit to keep the preschool just the preschool and not intermingle district work and district traffic with our preschool students and families? And so that's still an option. We go there, we combine it, it'll work, but it's not a cost savings based on the majority of the building needing to be demolished because it's old. So that goes to number 2, which is that we only put preschool at the Muraski site. And as I said, that would provide a $6 million estimated project reduction. So the next train of thought is, well, where do we go as an administrative office team? Because this building does not have a long lifespan just because of the infrastructure issues. When I say infrastructure, that means our boiler is going, our roof is going, and the north wall is separating from the rest of our building because the foundation is sinking. This has nothing to do with appropriate maintenance of our building. These are structural issues from years past that are now rearing its head because the building's 50, 60 years old. So with that, we've got 2 options to consider. Do we lease? Or do we build a new administrative office on where we're at right now or on other vacant sites that we have? So I'm going to turn it over to George that's going to go through those options for the board.
Thanks, Cameron. So kind of did an analysis of a lease versus build. If you recall back in the spring, summer timeframe, we were looking at potentially leasing office space from an empty office building, a vacant office building here in town. The proposal that we got was 24,715 square foot office area. The lease base rate for that proposal was $7.50 per square foot with a increase of 3% annually. An additional $2.25 per square foot for annual insurance and maintenance of the building, and then the total cost over 37 years. And the reason 37 years, that's what would be if we would have had a bond issue against it. The total cost would be about $13 million, and then the annual lease payments would start about $196,000, and with annual increase of 3% every year, the final years would be about $569,000. So looking at a build, if the build was $6 million from the Muraski project to build a new SAO building, if it was based on a 37-year bond issue, so think of a mortgage, you have the principal amount, which in this case would be the $6 million, plus whatever the interest rate, you're going to accumulate interest. So an estimated interest rate of 4.751, which was from our municipal advisor. So total principal would be $6 million. That line should say total interest of 7.7. Cameron, would you be able to correct it as I'm typing? Total interest of 7.7. So altogether, total cost about 13.7 million, and the annual principal and interest amount over 37 years would be about $371,000, which would equate to about 0.16 mils. So based on those two analysis, it would cost about $700,000 more to build over the 37 years versus leasing, but the lease proposal does not include any costs if we were to retrofit or do any improvements to a site. Looking at some pros and cons, I guess moving on, is there any questions before moving into the pros and cons? Looking at the pros and cons, pros of a build, it would be, we would have a tangible asset owned by the district in a permanent administrative office space. We would also have, also not a bullet point, Dr. Abel will talk about at the end, but we'll also have, we can preserve one of the district's properties as in current legislation. If we would move away from a building or property, that we would have to sell it at fair market value to a community school. So we would be able to preserve a site as well. And then a con of building is a slightly cheaper option to lease by $700,000 over 37 years on current factors. However, retrofitting costs are not factored into any calculations. And then,
George, I think you skipped through the lease one, unless you did
oh,
while I
I
was
did.
typing.
No, I jumped ahead.
Yeah.
I thought it was out of order. I was doing it. So now going back to the lease pros and cons. One of the pros of leasing, again, as I mentioned, it would be the slighter, cheaper option over the 37 years. However, doesn't have the retrofitting cost. And then the cons, which are also the concerns that I have, is based on our current forecast. Anytime we enter into long-term multi-year obligations, we have to certify that the funds are available. Based on our current forecasts, now we're only in a positive for 2 years. So I don't see us being in a, I think we'll be in this trend for a while, kind of year to year based on how school funding is. So we won't be able to enter into any long-term contracts. It would be the smaller either annual renewals or year to year. So due to short-term lease agreements, a landlord might find a long-term tenant, which could cause a district to relocate or significantly increase the rates based on the one-year renewals. And then if they were to find a new tenant, we may struggle to find a viable relocation option within city limits, as there's, although there's properties, going through this process, at this time we've kind of identified 1 to 2 vacant properties that were open, and then market volatility could drive annual rate increases. Any questions on any of this before I turn it back over to Dr. Ribo?
So to wrap up with point 3, in the recent budget bill, there was a change to the law about what districts can do with unused school facilities. And what it says now is that you do not have the ability to demolish a building if you're not building another building on the property. Instead, you have to put it out as fair market value, and there's a pecking order to it, and that first buyer would be any local community or chartered school that's in Strongsville, and then it would extend beyond there. So if we were going to say we are going to go with number 1, and we're going to go to Muraski, we can't demolish this building. We would have to offer it at fair market value. We are already, based on our plan, going to have this issue over Whitney, because Whitney, we're doing the same thing. We're going to vacate that property and go to the old Albion Middle School property. we would have that issue over there, which would, that would double the exposure we have there. We don't have that issue at Chapman and Sarrar based on our plan because we're building in the backyard of those buildings that are there. So there is also an option in the law that you could do a land swap with the city of Strongsville. So that's just something to be aware of, that you've got land swap with the city, that would retain the property to the city versus having to put it at fair market value. If the administrative offices goes in the, if we say, hey, we want to build a separate building, if it goes in this backyard or Whitney's backyard, that's one less property we would have to address in terms of a land swap or putting it up at fair market value. So that goes through the options that are there. GPD is waiting for direction from me about going through and doing a preliminary design of a standalone administrative office building based on what we actually need. For example, this is a 32,000 square foot school that we retrofitted to be an administrative office building. We don't need this amount of space, so they're ready to get direction on how many offices, how many cubicle units do we have, how many professional development space do we need. So that would be the next step to kind of look at what is that price tag, should we go through with a standalone administrative office building. So that gives the updates. As I shared, the Muraski is where I'd like to hear from the board if there's any pause points where you're not interested in moving forward with any further exploration, so we know moving forward. So Ms. Hausum, I'll turn it back over to you.
Does anyone have any thoughts, questions?
I do have a question. When you say land swap, are we actually swapping something, or is this more like a gift?
That's what I haven't had the opportunity yet to dig into to see
Okay.
from a legal perspective of what that is. Whether it's truly a land swap where, like our neighbors in Brecksville did, where the city of Brecksville gave them a piece of property to build a new building and they gave a piece of existing, or if it's just like what we did at Allen Elementary to say, city, you could have this property for $1 as a lease agreement. That's something that I'm still working to dig into.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I guess, Cameron, have you had a chance to talk to your team that's here at this space? Have they given you any feedback on how they would like their workspace to show up, whether that's with the preschool or not?
I don't know, have we talked, I don't remember if we've talked about it. I know we've talked about so much stuff with construction lately. I don't think we've talked about it, so we talked about it in the past when we were looking at the Rite Aid building. So we took a look at that space in terms of, more of a fit plan and which departments need offices, which departments could have shared space. But we haven't had that conversation yet in terms of combine with preschool versus standalone.
And we know if you built a new SAO building, it would be much smaller than this one.
Yeah,
You wouldn't need these very large
yeah, yeah.
spaces.
I guess I'm very interested to see what a standalone would cost. I'm wondering if is it in the range of 6 or not? Like, same question we had with the ball fields, they ended up being significantly more than we thought. So I would be curious to go through that, as Richard calls it, exercise, to, see what the cost is. The idea of preserving our land, I think, is important. There's not much left in Strongsville, and I really hate to close the door if we don't have to. But if the price tag, is significantly higher than 6 million, I think we have to take a close look at that.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I support the idea of going that. I think the consideration that I'm comfortable with is separating the Muraski special needs preschool and a administrative office. I'm comfortable with the idea that Muraski will be strictly for students and that we don't need to try to continue down the road of figuring out how to put both in. It does resonate with me that it would be ideal not to have the traffic and just the programming differences. I like the idea of having it separate, so I think that one, and I hesitate to call it a $6 million, we're going to save $6 million. We're shifting the $6 million in one way or the other. But the fact that we can do it, I'm comfortable with taking that consideration off, and let's move forward with whether it's leasing, whether it's a new building, et cetera, and just drilling down on those, options so we can better understand what the pros and cons truly are at the end of the day.
And just as a point of clarification, if the lease option were to come to fruition, would that mean that we have to do the land swap and/or vacate a property?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think the lease gives you a lot more flexibility to stay relevant relative to technology, design, a lot of other things. 37 years is a long time, right, to be in a building. But I think the prevailing factor really would be the land, and that makes it tough. But to Rich's point, you're not really saving
Yeah.
$6 million.
Mm-hmm. So based on that, we'll move forward and continue with GPD, looking at what that space is. The other good news is there's two surrounding districts, Homestead Falls and Brunswick, that are building administrative offices now. So there's, work being done. It's just unique, right, because it's not something you build very frequently, but based on their project. So they're within this range of price but their construction pricing is now versus 3 years from now. So we'll continue to work on that.
Great.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
I would just like to share maybe a little jealousy for Cameron and his team, but I think we're losing an opportunity to say how exciting this is. And Cameron enjoys his analogies, and I understand he has the puzzle analogy. I look at it like, I remember when my wife and I first started our family, and we had 2 kids, and we had the bungalow in Parma, and we didn't know what to do with all the room. And then the 2 kids weren't 2 kids anymore. And I think there's a lot of similarities to that, where we get the opportunity to say, our family of students, how do we want to plan for them? And on the one hand, you have do we need 12 rooms? Do we need 9? But the fact that we're talking about having those rooms, and we don't have them now, it shouldn't be lost on anyone. We're in trailers right now. So it should be as much as it is work, as much as it is detail-oriented, it should be exciting, the thought of, brand-new school buildings and our students growing into that. At least it's exciting
Yeah.
to me.
Absolutely.
So,
No, you're right. When Michelle and I are on the calls every other week, it is exciting to see the concept. We're not in design yet or anything, but just to see the concept and to be able to kind of imagine what updated furniture would be like, and updated, not just rows of desks, but, the egg-shaped desks with chairs, and the collaboration that we can be doing. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and you're always going to have it was fine, and you just need one classroom, et cetera. But the same way we outgrew our house in Parma, and we moved to Strongsville, and you make those compromises. We had 4 children. There were only 3 bedrooms. So you then had to decide, is it the girls that were going to be in one bedroom or the boys? But all of that should be fun and exciting, and something to look forward to. Thank you.
All right, anything else on the bond project? Okay. Moving on, I will turn it over to George for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first being monthly financial report for October. I'll go over the supplemental report like I usually do. Just give me a second. All right, so through October 31st, just a quick summary on the screen. Total revenues were about $3.1 $1 million. Year-to-date, total revenues are about $3.1 million less than the previous year. Total expenditures are about $2.3 million higher than the previous year through October, and the cash balance is about $8.6 million lower than the previous year. And I'll go into more detail as we get to these sections. And then compared to the forecast, revenue is trending about $1.2 million higher than forecast. Expenditures are about $1.6 million less than the forecast, favorable, with a net potential gain about $2.3 million. However, we'll still be spending more than what we're bringing in, about $9 million. So kind of in summary, our beginning cash balance for the year at June 30th of last year, July 1st of this year, was $48.1 million. Our cash balance, predicted cash balance, will be about 38.7. So projected deficit spend down to 9.4. Still early in the year, we'll still hopefully have some budget efficiencies and throughout the year, or we'll see how our next half collections go as well, to see if there's any changes there. But as we're doing now, we'll continue to monitor and report out monthly. And then also wanted to point out on this chart, if you look at the blue, this is the current cash balance. The gray was the previous year, but just the trends from year to year, where this is the time of year where we'll start getting low on cash balance, because our majority of our revenue is based on property taxes. So those collections are July and August, where we see an increase in cash, and then it's spent down through September, August, November, December, and then the middle of January we get a small advance. February we'll get a larger advance, and then March is the settlement. So you kind of see the trend in February, March, where it dips back down, and then April through middle of July it kind of gets spent down until we get this next. So that's the cycle. So just kind of wanted to point that out. And then lastly, before I get into the discussions, as I mentioned last month as well, due to legislative changes, the forecasts are now due earlier and must align to districts' annual budgets, whereas last year at this meeting, in the past, is when I presented the November 5-year forecast, and it was based on trends versus kind of tie into the annual budget. So that's kind of where you're seeing some of these discrepancies now, is if as we get into the year where we have some of these changes, we were able to account for them. And then this year's budget, it was due in October. We presented and submitted in September using August data, which is 2 weeks into the school year. And although on the surface some of these numbers might be big, because we're talking about millions of dollars, but in perspective, while a $1.6 million variance on a $95 million budget may sound significant, but it's only about 1.6% variance, which is comparable to receiving $1.60 and change when spending $100. So just kind of wanted to put that in perspective. So looking at revenues just for the month of October in comparison to last October, revenues were down about $2.2 million. And when I say down, it was just a timing difference. This year we received the homestead and rollback reimbursement in September, whereas last year, in the previous years, we received it in October. So they were earlier this year with the reimbursement. Looking at year to date, overall revenues are about $3.1 million, lower than the previous year, and it's due to the renewal levy expiring, that first half of the renewal levy coming off. And then also, this was in the news, but in October, we received about $882,000 back from the county, which was not expected, and it was done after the forecast. And it was based on, they did the 6-year reappraisal, and they had savings when they did that reappraisal. The cost, they did a lot of the work in-house, which they returned funds back to the government entity. So we received about $800,000. I think the city received about 200 some thousand. And these are fees that come out of our statement every year that they apply. Not every year, every settlement, so twice a year. So they kind of accumulate, and they were able to return those. So that was a nice addition. And then the other increase, which is also factoring in the state revenue is that because of our 4.5 or 4.5 star rating on the state report card, we got about $300,000 as a performance bonus from the state as well. So those were the two things that kind of attributed the revenues being higher than forecasted. Expenditures. October compared to last October were about $893,000 higher. The biggest area was purchase services, and that's more of a timing. So rather than looking at the month, it's better to look at year-to-date. So looking at year-to-date October to last October, we're about $2.3 million higher. We're about 7.7%. Salaries and benefits are the largest increase of 1.5, and those are due to our negotiated agreements and the increases year over year. Purchase services and other expenses are higher, about $784,000 higher. And some of the increases there are professional services, which include nurses and OTs and PT therapies. Services are about $173,000 higher. Our utilities are about $200,000 higher. Our special education placements are about $175,000 higher compared to last year. And textbooks we spent, this is more of a timing, that we spent about $200,000 in textbooks through October in comparison to last October. Trending in comparison to the forecast, as I mentioned, we're about $1.2 million favorable to the forecast. The state revenue is due to the performance bonus, and then other revenue is due primarily to the county reimbursement. And then for expenditures, we're trending about 1.6 million or 1.6% better to the forecast. The largest areas of savings is in salaries and benefits of about $1 million. And some of the factors there are salaries are about $700,000 below the forecast, and benefits are about $340,000 below the forecast, which is due to some open positions that we have and kind of attrition. So our substitutes were about $125,000 lower in salaries and $175,000 in lower in benefits, primarily due to the full-time substitute positions remaining unfilled as substitutes cover the teachers' as our current full-time substitutes are covering teacher leaves. And middle school salaries and benefits are about $147,000 lower due to parental leave, open positions, and a budgeted intervention specialist placeholder position that we haven't had to fill. And then the other bigger increases in transportation were about 180 lower in salaries and benefits due to open positions and attrition. So that concludes the monthly report. If there's any questions.
Any questions, comments?
All right. So
Thanks, George.
moving on to the agenda. We have a new fund for fiscal year 26. This was the change to the agenda. In the next section, we received a grant, and this is to account for the grant in its own local grant and cost center. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the following new fund be approved for fiscal year 26. Fund 19, Special Cost Center 9110 for Ohio STEM Learning Network STEM grant at Chapman Elementary. And then the next section, 3, approval of 2 grants for that STEM classroom grant of $2,500. It's one that our gifted intervention specialist or gifted coordinator Lauren Skoda applied for the challenge 24 challenge, Fun, Fast, and Fierce Math for All at Chapman, which is the cost of the supplies and materials for that. And then there was an SEF grant award for Soror for their Aero Garden for supplies for $302.89. And then item 4, changes to the permanent appropriation. The changes include the 2 grants that were listed, and also a 070 fund change for the GPD and architectural and engineering services for the baseball and softball field renovations agreement that the board approved at the October 23rd meeting for $104,885. So those were the 2 changes. And the last item is, this is an annual resolution for the county to accept their real estate advancement program. And it's kind of what I talked about in the when I was talking about the cash balance. So the county has 2 settlement dates when they settle the taxes, which is the dates for next year is March 13, 2026, and then August 14, 2026. But we can receive them as an advance, as they've typically done in the past on how they collect. But in order to do that, we need to approve a resolution to send back to the county. So we would start, if the advance schedule is January 15th, February 13th, and then the March settlement, and then the second half is July 15th and August 14th. And that concludes my report.
Great. Thanks, George. All right, I'll turn it over to Dr. Idle.
Thank you, Ms. Hazen. The first item we have is consideration of the academic calendars. So be it resolved upon my recommendation that the academic calendars for the 26-27 and 27-28 school years be adopted as presented. So just a little bit of context. As you remember, last month, Kevin Klein came and shared the updates of the calendar. We gave a month for parents and staff to provide feedback on that calendar. If memory serves, I think we had 42 people provide a response. The calendar committee met last Thursday to review that feedback and make any adjustments where necessary. So based on that feedback, we did make there's a couple changes from the version that you saw a month ago. And if you're on George, you're good where you're at. So we had some feedback about parent-teacher conferences, the purple days in September and October. So in the original calendar for 26-27, both days were on the 29th and 30th. We got some feedback that it's a long day, it's a 12, 13-hour day, right? Having that on a Tuesday and the rest of the week can become challenging, as well as the elementary staff felt that they would like it a little bit later to have more time since they're on trimesters with students to have meaningful conferences. So we made those adjustments. And what was Tuesday, September 29th became Wednesday, October 14th. So addressing both things later in the year or in the fall, and then on a Wednesday. And then the other change was just simply the blues were similar, so we made some color coding changes just to make it more visible. And George, if you could do me a favor and scroll down to the bottom. We received feedback about better clarity on the orange days, which are days where some students are in school and others are not. So we just created that little box there that specifically spells out on the 3 days where that occurs, who's in school and who's not. So that's just more of a clarification, communication piece of it. And then the same changes are reflected on the 27-28 calendar. I just wanted to kind of share some context. Again, Kevin shared this before, but a calendar is based on 186 days because that's what we've agreed to with our teachers as to how many days they will work each school year. And we have flexibility in terms of those days, how they're broken out, but there's some criteria to say, hey, a big portion of those will be student days, then there'll be professional development days on top of that, then there'll be some parent-teacher conference days, then there will be, set up your room day and convocation days. So as you could see, we have 176 student days, and there's all the things I just mentioned, that adds up to 10, which meets the requirement for our teachers to work 186 days. There's a lot of feedback every time we do these calendars about starting after Labor Day or starting later in August, but there's also a strong urge to end before Memorial Day. 186 days do not fit in that time frame. So really, you're looking, the simplistic way that the calendar committee looks at this is to say, how many days do we have in August? And it's just a lever between August and June. The later you start in August, you go into after Memorial Day. The less you go into after Memorial Day, the earlier you start in August. And so that is just, it's a math problem that just doesn't work out. And we are not willing to sacrifice less student days. That's how you fix it, right? Less work days, less student days. And we feel that we are at a good spot for where that needs to be. George, it's in the agenda too. I don't know if you have it pulled up. Yeah, it looks like you do. So one of the things that we as a committee did, and I'll put this in my next staff and parent update, is we took the predominant points of feedback where the calendar committee said we appreciate the feedback, but we are not going to make those changes, and created FAQs to give the rationale as to why those are there. So you could see, hey, why don't we start later? There was even some feedback about we're willing to go into June, just to not read it to you, but highlight some of the points. If we start later, that's going to push high school midterm exams after winter break, which means students are going to have to go back to preparing for exams during winter break. They don't get to enjoy that. It gives us more time prior to state testing and AP exams. It lessens that window after, when you're in a grade level that has a state exam, you have to get the majority of that content taught before that state exam, which means afterwards, not that our teachers don't come up with engaging materials and experiences, but it becomes more challenging. There were some feedback in terms of breaks and long weekends. We do have 2 4-day weekends, one in October and one in November. Why are those there? Given an explanation to share that as well. Again, the highlight is we have parent representation on our committee, and parent representation shared, hey, when you have this random Tuesday off, or you have this random Thursday off, it makes it really difficult for childcare. So that's where in October, we've made it a Thursday, Friday. Again, it doesn't help the number of days or reduce the number of days, but it's 1 week where you have 2 days in a row that you have to worry about it instead of multiple weeks. We did get a lot of feedback about why don't we take a full week off at Thanksgiving. Again, those days have to shift otherwise. And if you take a look at it, November and December have the least amount of instructional days that we have, and we just don't think it's instructionally sound to reduce that even further. And then spring break is always a popular one. Why do we pick spring break the way we do? We do that in collaboration with all of the other Polaris districts, so our students that attend Polaris can actually have a spring break, because if we weren't on the same page, they would never truly have a spring break. There were some questions about why we have the grade-specific days off, those orange days we just talked about, which are explained. And finally, the last one was, why do we stack 2 PD days in a row at the beginning of the year? And we really do that. There's a benefit to professional development, is we could have a day of true intense PD and then a day of reflection and putting it into action. But also it helps our families and our students, because if we take 2 of those 10 days that add up to 186 and we put them before students start, it allows us to get a few days where students start later. And it also allows students to start on a Tuesday for the next couple of years instead of a Monday. So we'll put those out there so everybody could see. But this is a consent item, so it's not going to be a vote right now. But if any questions or anything that I didn't cover that you want to ask me while we're on this agenda item.
I just have one question about the specific grades that attend. I know you have a description there, but in this previous 2-year cycle, it was like K-6 and then 7-12 were the same.
Yeah.
But I see now we have one day where only grade 6 through 8, and I'm hearing the screaming happening in my house over this. So can you please explain how we landed on just having 3 grades go?
So it all has to do with May Election Day. So there was a strong push from the committee that why do we say we can't have schools open on November Election Day, but we allow them to be open with voting in the majority of our buildings? So that was a strong push that said we are going to, they wanted to have that May Election Day as a day where students were not in session.
Okay.
However, the high school could not agree to that because AP dictates when AP testing is going to happen, and it happens then. So we made the judgment to say, if we feel this strongly, then May 4th, for this example, will be closed for pre-K to 8, but open for the high school, which meant I need to have a date in there where, if you look down the right-hand side of it, there's a day where a grade is just, or a level is in session.
Oh, it's K to 5.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so on that, I needed to find a spot where 6 to 8 would be in session to make up some of the other time that they lost. So that's where it was on that February 26th day, it was selected.
So that's the winner.
Yeah, so if you take a look on 12/18, only pre-K to 5s in session.
Right.
On 2/26, only middle school and only 5/4. So it evens out that, that's a full day of school that's just separated out through the 3 levels.
Makes my life really special. Thanks, Tammy.
Well, you could spend some quality time with just your middle schoolers.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. All right, if there's no other questions on the calendars, moving on, as everyone is aware, at our last work session, we had presentations by two communication firms, AdCom and the Impact Group, about partnering with the district to help support communication services for our master facility planning project, as well as overall communication as we try to not only effectively communicate to our parents and stakeholders that are connected to the district, but the 76% that don't have that direct connection. So the board has reflected on that, shared their thoughts via a survey. And Mrs. Hausum, I'll turn it back over to you to guide the discussion. We've set this item as a fill in the blank because you've set your feedback to me independently of others. I've shared the culminated themes with you, but we've got to determine here which communication firm will go in that blank, and then obviously their rate of payment will follow.
All right. Well, after reviewing everyone's feedback, it was pretty clear that both firms offered valuable but different strengths that aligned with some different phases of our work. Impact Group had strong experience with school districts, clear understanding of the legal requirements that we're facing. I feel like they could probably start quickly with minimal onboarding. But then AdCom is, they bring more modern, long-term communication and branding vision. I mean, everyone provided really great feedback on both firms. Does anyone else have any comments or questions about the feedback?
Can we just straight share, like, a summary of what the data, when you culminated it, told us? And
Sure. I have it open somewhere in my tabs. Let me pull it up. No, I've got it. All right. There we go. Okay, so what we, the board, as we had the presentations, was completing a rubric where you rated points for each of the groups. And so as we take a look at the points, there was 189 total points. Impact Group had 147, which was about 77.8%, and AdCom got 139 points, which was 73.5%. We asked 3 questions on the rubric: which firm best aligns with our current phase of work? Out of that, Impact Group had 8 people say they did. AdCom had 1. Next question was, which team seems most capable of representing the district's values in our community? Impact Group 3, AdCom 6. And then which proposal is the best strategic investment for the next 12 months? Impact Group 6, AdCom 3. And then there were a variety of comments that people provided.
thank you.
Other thoughts, questions?
I can share what my thoughts were. I think that was a fair assessment of Impact Group if we're looking short-term in terms of, funding type of communication. Specifically because they know what school districts need and those very strict laws that we now have to follow. However, my opinion was that AdCom over the long haul was probably a better fit, to the point that says which matches our values better. And the one thing I liked about them specifically was that they weren't working primarily with schools, and I think what you get with that is a more out-of-the-box approach. And I think we struggled to get out of the box with communication, I think sometimes, especially with the last couple of levies. And it's hard. Communication is a hard piece, especially with the ever-changing media and all the things. You know, we had the post, now we don't have the post, things like that. They appealed to me because I think they bring a wider perspective on what's out there, what works, what different kind of context different things work. I think they had some more specific examples about getting out into the community, those type of things. And I was approaching this from the perspective of not just now, because I don't think this goes away. I don't think the need to tell our story goes away. I think it's been ongoing and needs to be ongoing. So I was looking at it as a whole perspective, and so I was preferring AdCom. I could certainly make the argument we could do impact group short-term and then transition to AdCom long-term, but then you're adding a transition in there. Do we really want to build a relationship with one, abruptly stop? And what happens if our funding needs last longer? I worry about making a transition. So that's how I came to the decision of, I think I'd like to give AdCom a shot.
And that's what I was thinking, what you said before. You just said, give AdCom a shot, like short-term, bring in the impact group, let them hit the ground running, and then gradually phase AdCom in.
I don't know that there's any phasing. I mean, can we overlap their contracts?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was going to suggest, we need to make a decision, and Impact Group has the experience, and we have a time is of the essence information campaign. But this is just the decision on November 20th, and then whenever it's reasonable, we make another decision. And, AdCom, I do think, brings a lot to the plate, but I kind of look at this as the same way we do our legal firms. We want to get the expertise for the time and the subject matter. So I'm just, I would suggest we go forward with Impact Group, and then when the time's right, the board can revisit the decision. We're not making a permanent decision. We're not making a forever decision. We're not even making a one-year decision. We're making a today decision. So that's what I would support and recommend.
I like that the impact group works specifically with Brunswick, which is our neighbor, and knows the area, knows the rules, knows the laws, knows what people in our area want, whether it's over a county line or not, but what our specific area is, and already has that framework built, as opposed to having to do like a litmus test to figure out what that is. And seeing what did work for them, as opposed to not just what they did, but what actually worked for them.
Kevin?
Reading our comments, our collective comments, one thing that really jumps out to me is the notion that Impact Group understands the law and the nuance around that. What I struggle with is, I agree with Michelle, and that I don't think it's very hard to stay within the lines of the law if you know what it is. And so you just had a group that has not experienced that, but I think they're highly capable of understanding how to stay within the lines. And we will always have someone within this district who is approving the communication that goes out. You're going to get, I think you're going to get a much more modern approach, and you're going to find the right tone and other people that we may not have been approaching or reaching with AdCom. But reading the comments here, I understand what the reason to believe would be for the Impact Group. I just don't think it's that high of a bar for someone to say, here are the lines, and stay within them. I think they demonstrated they're pretty smart. And while this is a bit personal, I just think Jessica's involvement in this community, as a parent and as a homeowner and actively in the community, would give us an advantage that we don't currently have. She is the voice, and she knows it better than everyone else.
So we have to fill in the blank. Richard is Impact Group.
Not to put too fine a point on it, pick, and then we'll vote.
Okay.
And if it fails, we'll pick again, and then we'll vote. If it fails, we'll still be here.
Well, it's a consent item, so,
We can change
Change
that.
it.
okay.
George, do you want to edit it, or do you want me to?
I
What's
could-
easier for you? What's that?
I could, well, do you have the right to put in?
Mhm.
Do you want to edit it?
Yeah, I can.
And then when you, in the edit box, there's a
Yeah.
button, okay.
Can I ask, just from the administrative team's standpoint, do you all have a point of view to share?
Sure.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, so my point of view is the same back and forth that the board has had, I have had as well, right? For all the same reasons that I don't need to repeat, because you said them well. The only part that I would add that leans me towards the impact group is not so much about the law, but it's about learning school district language and lingo and the nuances of it. So there is a learning curve about, all about the facilities planning process that would be new to them. So that's my concern, is that when we take a look at bringing on a firm, that the goal is not only to provide high-quality communications and information, but allow us to focus on the things that we need to focus on. I wonder how much of that lift is going to be there to get them to understand the public school world, outside of the laws and all of that. And so then where I get stuck in my own head is that short-term lift worth the long-term benefits that we'll have? But right now, if you're asking me for my strict opinion is the impact group for the short term, and then you make that transition for all the reasons that you said. Because I believe although the long-term benefit may be stronger with AdCom, I don't know if we have the time to go through that between now and the next 6 to 8 months. Jenny?
I would agree wholeheartedly. I think I shared when we met with them, I'm concerned about the lift. I think when we met with the facilities committee as well, they are also concerned about, the lift as we look at, communicating this information and how much we are going to have to share and provide and clarify and make sure is clear. And so, working with the impact group in the past, like Cameron said, they have a real clear picture of district language, and especially the pieces that we've been working on through our strategic plan and those kinds of things as well. But I also agree with what you all said as well. I think it's kind of exciting to hear what the AdCom group could bring, and a new perspective, a fresh perspective, long-term, as we continue to make sure we communicate our story.
George?
Yeah, I was similar to what Cameron and Jenny had to say too. With I do like what the AdCom group has to bring to the table, but in the short term, just kind of where we're at, kind of hitting the ground running, and just the knowledge of school districts, how, as Cameron mentioned, the lingo and the knowledge base on that to get moving from the next few months. But where the impact group could benefit us, but in the long term, as we continue to evolve our communication with our different styles, I think there's a lot there. The AdCom has a lot to offer based on, I like their messaging pillars and the whole suite of their business that they have, that they're able to offer as well. So it's kind of conflicting on both aspects, where they both had positives that were hard, and I had them rated closely together, so.
I think the timing is just the biggest part. I feel like we should, obviously we couldn't have done this months ago, but it would have been great to be able to do it months ago, so it's time is of the essence with all things with it.
I'm gonna muddy the waters. It's okay.
No.
Great, yeah. So if you take a look at AdCom, and we would have to verify this, right? Their cost structure is just an hourly rate. So there's nothing to say that you can't use both firms to provide services that we need. Because you've got one, Impact Group is a straight monthly rate. And so I don't know if it has to be an either or, it can be an and. So what I would suggest is that the board gives direction for tonight for, who's going to do the master facilities work that we're doing. But I don't think that relationship with AdCom, since there is, everybody said, hey, they offer a great value. You can use them as another vendor that's utilized for specific things because it's a flat hourly rate. It's not an extended, we're going to pay you this much, so.
So for clarity, the impact group, what is the deadline or the end of their contract?
It's whatever we set. Their fee structure is $5,000 a month, and that equates to 40 work hours a month. That's how their structure works. So it would just be whenever we determine how many months they will be utilized. That's up to us.
So, but we're not doing an annual contract?
No, it's a per month.
So I'd suggest and see if there's board consensus. Let's move forward with the impact group. It's a month-to-month contract, and then when it's time to pull the trigger on other tools, the board will pull the trigger on other tools.
Ms. Hausum, would you like me to put that in the agenda and then? Yes, okay.
I would just suggest to, I guess Hallie's point, that if you're gonna go the direction that you just suggested, Dr. Radbo, sooner than later, having AdCom start to get them good, because in that role, they can start sharing good news. That's not just about building the facilities and building goodwill in other areas. And I think, Michelle, you mentioned it earlier, we need to start doing that now, or yesterday. So the sooner the better.
Got it.
And you may just be setting them both up to do what they do best.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
George, if you refresh, I think it's there now.
I guess it's a good problem to have two really good companies together.
Yeah.
Could be worse problems.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we all hated the idea of having to give them numerical things to vote it too, that was so stressful.
So be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education will contract with the Impact Group for communication services at a rate of $5,000 per month.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. Any other last comments or questions? Hearing none, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We do not have any business under business services, so we'll move on to the curriculum report for the month.
Good evening. I have 3 items for your consideration. The first is the Strongsville High School choral student trip to New York City, April 23rd through 26th. Transportation is via chartered motor coach, and transportation, lodging and meals will be paid for by participating students. The second item is payment for advanced placement testing. This cost will be reimbursed by participating students. And then lastly, we have a student-teacher clinical practicum placement, an agreement with Baldwin Wallace and one of our teachers at Whitney Elementary. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Nicole. We do not have any items under student services, so we'll move on to the human resource report.
Thank you, Dr. Raba. Good evening, everyone. I have the following items in human resources for your consideration. Item 1, resignations, non-certificated. Item 2, retirement, certificated. Item 3, retirement, non-certificated. Item 4, appointments, non-certificated. Item 5, appointments, certificated substitutes. Item 6, appointments, non-certificated substitutes. Item 7, appointment, certificated district substitute. Item 8, appointments, certificated supplemental contracts. Item 9, appointments, certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 10, appointments, non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 11, changes in status, non-certificated. Item 12, contract recommendations, non-certificated continuing contracts. Item 13, contracted services, interim business manager. Item 14, leaves of absence, leadership. Item 15, leaves of absence, certificated. Item 16, leaves of absence, non-certificated. Item 17, unpaid leave, certificated. Item 18, volunteers, chaperones. And item 19, volunteers, coaches.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
No report this month under technology, so that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, report on Polaris Career Center. Michelle.
Thank you. A couple things to note. Similar to Strongsville, Polaris had a really successful trick or trade event on October 30th. It was a rainy evening, so everybody made a go of it indoors, but they had a fantastic turnout there where kids of all ages, kids in strollers, it was really great to see. Wandering around the building, there were lots of hands-on activities. They got to see the different labs, explore the different programs. My son made a little button. Of course, there was lots of candy, so it was a really great event, and everybody enjoyed that. And then we had, just this past Tuesday evening was registration night for current sophomores. So those students who are planning to attend Polaris next fall as juniors and then as seniors. Great registration night for Strongsville. We had the highest turnout of any of the associate districts by a significant margin. So we've done a lot of work in the last, 5 to 10 years to really explain what Polaris is to our students, what it has to offer, and help students make a decision that best suits their needs. And so I think we're doing a great job at that, and kids are having opportunities they might not otherwise have had. So congratulations to those students, and good luck. And there is an entry process, so they'll be going through that. But it's an exciting time as they're kind of looking to pick what does my future hold for me. So that took place this past Tuesday. Of course, a lot of us were down at Capitol Conference, so Polaris had some representation there as well. There's some other notable things. There's a senior-only program that is starting. So if you're not currently enrolled in a Polaris program, either on campus at your home school or at Polaris Career Center, there's now programs that they're running for just like a 1-year, 1 semester senior option. So if you are a senior that is now kind of considering, hey, maybe I should have looked into Polaris, there's options for you. So check out the website there. The College and Career Resource Fair, I don't know if I talked about this last time. I don't think so. I took my son to that. It was fantastic. I learned about universities I never heard of before. So that was great. The list, I'm scrolling through the newsletter, and the amount of things that are happening there is phenomenal. There was manufacturing for a day. We took some students. I know they had students signed up at each high school. They took them out to Liverpool Industrial Parkway, and they went to different manufacturing companies there, and they got tours and to learn about what they do. So just every single day, it seems like there's something going on. So check out their website, try to pay attention to what might work for your age student if you're interested. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Report on legislation.
George, I would say George sent us a lot of things. There's a lot going on, and a lot of it doesn't affect us. That's what I got.
So, as a preamble to a lot of it doesn't affect us.
Now you can talk about the stuff that doesn't affect us.
The report from legislation coming out of Columbus. So under the marketing, under the banner of Stop the Spikes, both the House and the Senate passed 4 bills: House Bill 129, House Bill 309, House Bill 186, and House Bill 335. And all of them, in one way or the other, attempt to address the increases that Ohio has been experiencing with property tax. House Bill 186 puts an inflation cap on the 20 mil, on the increases resulting from the 20 mil floor. It also does a change to the owner occupancy credit, which shifts who can qualify for an additional owner occupancy credit on their property tax bills. And it increases owners, and it removes some credits for primarily investors in rental units, et cetera. So those people will pay more or will not get a credit, and those who are occupy their and own their residential home will get an increased credit, and that grows over time. In addition, House Bill 129 changes some of the ways current levies apply to the 20 mil floor. And so a number of school districts that were under the 20 mil floor will now be above the 20 mil floor. We, Strongsville, are already above the 20 mil floor. 335, House Bill 335 does some changes to the law to mitigate the growth or the increase of inside millage growth. And then the 309 introduces a trigger or another check on how much property taxes can grow or increase, and it allows the Budget Commission to reduce the tax if, it'll be interesting to see how they define these terms, but if it's unexpected or unneeded growth in money. And the one thing I will share, because again, we're a school district, so I always think about it in relation to social studies or history class or government class. So House Bill 309 will allow the county budget commissioners to make a decision about voted taxes. And in Cuyahoga County, the three people who make up the county budget commission are Chris Ronayne, who's the county executive, who is elected, Mike O'Malley, who's the county prosecutor, who's elected, and then finally the county fiscal officer, a gentleman by the name of Michael Chambers, who, interestingly enough, is appointed. He is not elected. So we now have a situation where they have their thumb on the levers. Right now, and George can correct me if I'm wrong, but right now it does not apply to us because we would have to be in a situation where we have more income than we have expenses. And right now, that situation doesn't apply in any way, shape, or form. But again, laws get passed today and 10 years down the road, they have unintended consequences. So right now, all of these do address the increase in property taxes in different ways, but primarily for Strongsville, they don't change the facts, and the facts are that we currently are in a deficit spending mode.
And the one thing,
George, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was going to say, earlier in my presentation, I touched on, due to legislative changes, how it shifted into the 5-year forecast. And a lot of it has to do with the timeline associated to that last bill that Mr. Micko was talking about the budget, about the county budget commission with the ability to reduce levies based on, or tax rates based on revenues over expenditures or cash. So by moving those deadlines up, it gives them time to make those necessary adjustments. As the new tax rates for next year will be issued by the, submitted by the county to the State Department of Taxation the end of November, and then the tax duplicates will go out in December. So that's why those shifts have occurred. And then also it'll be interesting to see what they do with the tax budgets. So at the organizational meeting, we have to present the tax budget, or approve the tax budget, submit to the county. Based on those, some counties are now requiring you go in front of the Budget Commission to go plead your case as to why you need the taxes that you're levying within the tax budget. So no word from Cuyahoga County if that process is going to change, but some counties are moving towards that model where you have to go present in front of the county.
And that concludes our report.
All right, thank you. City Council, Rich.
I will continue with City Council. City Council did meet on Monday, and I do want to give City Council a shout out. This happens on a regular basis. At the Monday meeting, they approved, after 3 readings, 3 TIFs, tax increment financing. One of the TIFs is for the Brewster's ice cream custard place that's getting built on Pearl Road. The other one is for the Sheets at Prospect and Royalton, and that remodeling. And then the third one is for the Dollar General that is being built on West 130th. Cities have the opportunity or the option to determine how those TIF financing scenarios are enacted. Some cities do not hold their school districts harmless. And the argument is about development and long-term growth, et cetera. But we have a great relationship with City Council and with the administration, and all of their TIF agreements, they make sure that in the language, the school district is held harmless, meaning we don't lose revenue in exchange for this development. So the TIF goes forward, the development occurs, the growth in the city occurs, but they recognize a strong city and a strong schools go hand in hand. And so I just want to publicly thank City Council and the administration for once again making sure that the school district is at the table when these conversations occur. And then the second announcement is probably the most important of this meeting, and that is about the Winter Wonderland lighting. The Winter Wonderland lighting is going to be, and I should have had it ready and didn't.
It's this Sunday.
It is this Sunday at 5:30 on the Commons.
Yes.
Reports are that Santa Claus will make a visit, so if anyone is on the nice list, you should show up. If anyone thinks they have the potential of being on the naughty list, show up, plead your case, and make sure to lodge a improvement program that you'll have in place by Christmas. And that concludes my report.
Rich, if I could just add, I'm sorry, I'm going to to their Facebook page. There was a small mention of the AAA bond rating, that it came back that we are still rated that, correct?
That is correct. The
Yes.
city did
Congratulations to
receive
the
its
city.
reevaluation, and as the mayor pointed out, when it is time to fund, whether it be road improvements or any other kind of improvement in the city, that bond rating saves the citizens and the taxpayers of Strongsville real dollars. So kudos to them.
Yes. And then the only other thing I wanted to add, I'm sorry, just a shout out to Kelly Kosick. I know a couple weeks ago, she posted on her Facebook page exciting sidewalk developments at tonight's city council meeting. So they are looking at the city and where we don't have sidewalks. They're going to engage with an expert to prepare a comprehensive plan, and seeking a legal opinion about the ability to use TIF money to install sidewalks. So I thought that was a great move for our city too. So shout out to Kelly. All right, next we have Strongsville Education Foundation, Kevin and Haley.
Casino night Saturday.
Yes, casino night is Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the event center. So hopefully we'll be there and raise a lot of money.
Thank you. Michelle, Strongsville PTA Council.
Yes, thank you. There was a meeting in November 6th, 9:30 a.m. in this room. Unfortunately, I was dealing with a medical situation with one of my kids, and I was not here. But I have good friends who take good notes. So this is what I hear they talked about. DARE, we've talked about this before, is now partnering with the PTA Council for the dances, and that has been wildly successful. Better attendance, less volunteers necessary to make it go, et cetera, and the PTA is keeping 100% of the profit. So it works out great for all parties involved, and then those profits go towards the grants that they give out to people who apply for them. So in that vein, the grant committee just collected a long list of requests. These come from teachers and other employees in the school district. And they have a committee that's going to be meeting and processing those applications. So more to come on that. And then there's a holiday luncheon coming up, December 4th. Time is a little bit different, location. The meeting's at 10 and then the luncheon's at 11. And they utilize a community, the Meadowwood Clubhouse for that event to make sure we can fit that many people with food. So everyone is welcome to that. If you're interested, just let us know. And then Founder's Day again is coming in February. They are busy preparing for that. I don't have a date yet, but more to come. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Southwest General Hospital has not had a meeting since we talked about them last. So we'll move on to our committee reports. Finance Committee. Michelle and/or Kevin.
We had our last meeting in September, and we have not convened since. So good meeting and a lot of takeaways from that. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Policy Committee. Michelle and/or
Same story there. We recently met. We only meet about twice a year, so that'll be coming up again in the spring.
Great. Facilities Committee, we did have an opportunity to meet this past Tuesday evening, and we met at our preschool on Lund Road, it was fun to see where our youngest learners are learning. And
Sit in the chair.
they had big girl chairs for us, big girl boy chairs. No, it was very exciting to see the handprints on the wall and the different colors and the little cubbies and all the ways, that they are teaching our youngest learners. My biggest takeaway is we have 117 students in our Lund Road preschool, and it is packed. It is packed so much that we now have 3 classrooms at Chapman of 60 of our youngest learners. And it makes me feel bad that they're not all together, learning together and collaborating. But we, after we toured the preschool, we had an opportunity to sit down with Steve, and he went over his, I call it the punch list, the 5-year priorities of what needs done to our buildings. We spent a lot of time talking about roof replacement at Muraski and Sarar, window replacement, talked about timing with the bond being in May. We can't wait until May 5th to say, hey, we need some new roofs this summer. So we came to consensus that we will be waiting to do roofs and windows, but we are going to get some quotes for our transportation and support service roofs. I did not realize they have foam roofs on them. So Steve will be working on getting quotes for roofs for support services and transportation. And this summer, we will be resurfacing, or we will actually be replacing the parking lot at the middle school. So it does say our next meeting is February 17th, but we have decided to hold off until May to meet again. And and Rich, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out. We were at the preschool, and I was in a big boy chair. But we did get a tour of the preschool, and I think to a person, everyone who was part of that committee complimented the state and the condition of the special needs preschool. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Robert Snowberger and Nicholas Vaccarello, who are the 2 custodians there. You could see the obvious pride that both of them take in that building, but it is, we joke, but you could eat off the floor. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to go into too many details, but keeping that level of cleanliness in a preschool has its own particular challenges. But it was obvious, not only did they take pride in their job, but they took pride in that school. They took pride in their charges and the students, and it was wonderful to behold. It was wonderful to witness, and I wanted to share that with the community, that we do have that level of commitment. Bob and Nick get the kudos today, but that commitment is throughout the district, so shout out to them.
And it's like that on a daily basis, even during the school day. When you go there, there's no paper on the ground, there's nothing on the ground. It is so spotless. I've said that every time I go there, of like, where are the children? Are they actually here? Because it's very clean.
Yeah. All right, Business Advisory Council.
Sure. We met here in this room on November 7th, and Cameron and team put on an incredible show. We had business leaders from the community who commit their time, and they shared with our educators the type of work they're doing in the AI space. And it was absolutely fascinating, mind-blowing, and inspirational all at the same time. And it was, it certainly surpassed my expectations for the day. So our teachers and educators were learning about what is actually practically taking place in different businesses, whether that be manufacturing or more white-collar jobs, and then how they could apply that in curriculum and how they apply that to teaching our students. So there's a ton of work to do in this space as we think about AI fluency for our students, but a lot of takeaways, and probably just not even scratching the surface of what the possibilities could be.
It was,
Kelly,
it
anything
was
else?
interesting to hear how with AI, you can actually ask AI questions on how to utilize AI and then use different AI bots to talk, to figure out how to use other ones. So it's, you're using all of that to educate yourself and learn, and to hear how these individuals said they have the upper hand or the advantage because of the AI that they use, but also the fact that the job security they have, because AI is not 100% foolproof, and they have to check and recheck and make sure things are okay. So at the same time, they're not worried about losing their jobs to AI because they are needed to make sure that the information they're getting is actually accurate.
While balancing that with deep learning, so you actually know what the subject matter, so you can use AI as an assistant. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, we had a lot of very engaged business, civic leaders that are in this community that want to support, to see how our community rallies around to have maybe even like a committee that's working on this on a regular basis to support our teachers and educators.
And I recommend anyone that wants to be involved in that, get involved in that and reach out to find out how, because we did the rotation, and I kind of wish we had a chance to talk to everybody that was there. It is really fascinating and exhilarating. And there was bakery.
And that concludes our report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the adoption of consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education in adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denotes as type-action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do we have anything that needs to be removed? No? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, second by Kevin.
Who's going to so move and second these things when we're not here?
Be a learning. George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, Dr. Ryba, timely information.
All right, well, you know, to give out my secret, Mr. Faust puts together my timely information each month. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff I know that's going on and some of the stuff I don't. And so I just have to say, like, this was one of those months where it was a proud moment, right? To see all that's going on in our classrooms, proud of the work that our teachers are doing and our administration is doing to lead some great experiences in changing what's happening in the classroom on a daily basis. So we're going to start at the elementary level with Sarar third grade teachers, Ms. Lewis, Ms. Dutton, and Ms. Garden. So they've been working on, we've talked about CKLA, right? It's our new language arts curriculum that Aaron brought to the district. And it's, you know, content knowledge. So they have these different content studies that they learn through their literacy skills. And one of those was building real world connections. And so they had this idea of, hey, how can we take this? We've got this great partner in Polaris and bring them to Sarar to look at how they can learn about the human body. And so what Polaris did is say, hey, instead of going to you, why don't you come to us? And you could see the pictures on the side there. They had 5 different stations that they went through: nursing, EMT, vet science, dental, and exercise science. And then it also gave an opportunity for the Polaris students to help lead and teach and create these hands-on experiences for our students. So they got to listen to animal heartbeats, floss teeth on dental mannequins, completed some agility testing, used medical tools to take vital signs, and a variety of other things to allow them to see their learning concepts firsthand. Now, we've met with Polaris afterwards, and they were so excited to share about the information, and then in the next breath, they said, And wow, we've got a lot of requests now for people to come to Polaris and do this, because we were the first test group to do that. So third grade teachers at Soror, they do such phenomenal work. A lot of those are members of the district learning team under Jenny's leadership there to bring deeper learning to life. And this is just a great example of using CKLA to bridge some deeper learning experiences with our kids. Moving on to the middle school, I thought this was really cool. This was something I did not know about, is that students in our sixth grade Vikings team have been learning about different civilizations in a unique way. So they've been working through this survival simulation where they imagine living in the Stone Age and needing to make decisions such as where they'll live, what they'll eat, and through these simulations they earn points based on their decisions, which is then logged in a reflection journal. So again, some of these topics can be a little drier, right? But to put it in a game format, to understand that your decisions have real consequences, that had those same consequences for people living during that time period, can see not only have a fun and engaging way to do it, but could see how different geographies led to life expectancy, economic factors, and people, products, and ideas that were in that era, in the Eastern Hemisphere during that era. So again, just an awesome way to bring the content in an engaging, meaningful way that's going to lead to better retention for our students. And continuing on to the high school, as we take a look, as we talked about our Business Advisory Council a couple weeks ago, last Friday, we had a great team of community partners and business partners that were there to have every student has to take speech and communications at our high school or a class that offers a similar experience. And they have to go through a mock interview experience. So 120 kids came in, met with business professionals, had a 10-minute interview. And then what I love about it is a 5-minute feedback session, right? The opportunity to go through that interview. Now, Jenny and I were there, and Nicole, I'm sure Nicole was up there too. The kids were nervous. They were nervous, man. You'd see them in the hallways, and you could tell it was on their face. And then talk to them afterwards, and they were so excited. But that one-on-one coaching from a business professional, it was a great experience for them to work on all of those things that go into it. And it was funny. We were talking to some of the people in kind of the huddle up for the interviewers, and they were asking questions like, hey, were they told to dress up for this? Because I want to give them some feedback on dress, because that's important. The one participant said, and I don't want any of these weak fish handshakes. I want to make sure that the kids are going in there strong, with a strong handshake. So those are the little things that make a difference when you make those initial connections and build relationships with people. So again, I think it was like they were there for at least 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah. There were various classes that cycled
Yeah.
through, so a lot of students had that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think on Monday, we have our next career series. It's not here,
Yes.
but career series, it's hospitality and finance career clusters. So we've got a bunch of people that will be at the high school for kids to wander through and see and experience what's going on in those career clusters that may be of interest to them. And then going to the next slide, Dan put out a press release about this yesterday, but I mean, Emily Weir, she's just a rock star teacher, right? She is just a phenom that's doing such great work, but what an honor for her. 2025 Young Professional of the Year for the Ohio Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. So I believe it's next week, or no, after Thanksgiving, that they have their annual conference, and she will be recognized down in Cincinnati there, and we'll have Emily come and be recognized at a future board meeting, but just so proud of her. And I know it's typically said so deserving, but she does so much and is so deserving of this honor. So congratulations to Emily. And then finally, we all know next week is a short week. We've got Thanksgiving break Wednesday through Friday. And then on December 19th, that's one of those orange days we were talking about earlier. No school for middle school and high school. Elementary will be in session. And then winter break will start the following 2 weeks. But before then, we've got a variety of winter concerts that will be performed by the high school and middle school, which are listed there and listed on the school's websites. And with that, that concludes my timely information.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have board policy, third reading. This is an action item. So be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education approves the listed policies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any last questions or comments for Haley and or Michelle? All right, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, we have Board of Education Other. Does anyone have any others to report?
Do we, I know that I had this conversation with a few people, Polaris has a dinner before our next meeting. Do we send Michelle? Do we know who goes next in January? Do we?
We have not, with 2 new board members, we haven't
Okay.
had a chance to address that yet.
Okay. Michelle's allowed to go then in December?
Yeah, she's on the, yeah, she's the board.
Okay, so they don't need then,
Yes.
okay.
I'll go for that.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Any others? Next, we have meeting notification. A regular Board of Education meeting will be held Thursday, December 11th, 2025 at 7 PM in the auditorium of Strongsville Middle School, 13200 Pearl Road, Strongsville, Ohio.
When's that scholarship dance? December 5th?
The first Friday night.
December 5th.
Yes. And it's very rare that I get to say this, but we do not have need for executive session tonight. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Haley, seconded by Kevin. George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion carries. We will adjourn at 9:08. I just want to wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving break.